This is Dan Ferrisi, editor of Sound and Communications Magazine. Happy to be joined this afternoon by Mike Blackman, Integrated Systems Events Managing Director. Thanks so much for joining me, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Dan.
So we want to talk about ISE 2021. Obviously, you and your team made news on Monday when you announced that you will be pressing forward with an in-person event in Barcelona in June for ISE 2021. Some people expected that decision. Other people were surprised. I'd like a bit of insight into what your decision-making process was organizationally, whom you consulted with, what kind of consultative process you had. Was it an easy decision? Was it a tough decision?
Well, I mean, firstly, the whole process is never easy. My team has been working since last February on producing a show for February this year, which they've had to, postpone to now being in June. So, any changes to such a process is never easy, and there are challenges as part of that. The process of doing it, I mean, firstly, we've seen already that ISE was going to be smaller. We lost a couple of major names early in the year, like LG and Philips. And I think we made that very clear that this had happened. They were, feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the corporate travel issues that made them, that put them in that position. So as the time progressed, we've been looking at the process. We've been looking, keeping in touch with the health authorities, getting updates and regular reports from the regional authorities on what the situation is. And we try to pass it on to our exhibitors as well. We got to the situation of I think it was October, November, when we'd moved the show and we sat with our exhibitor advisory committee. And, they basically said to us, look, we're behind you. We want a show to actually happen. What we don't want to happen is that you cancel it, 1 month before the show, and we've got into into serious cost that we can't recover.
Right.
And, that was fair. And we asked them, well, how much time out do you need for that decision? And the answer which came back was 3 months. So we set a date back in October to actually say, okay, we would give them a decision 3 months before the show, which meant the 1st of March, on what our position is. So we actually had a meeting with our advisory committee and try to get a bit of a temperature check. And, it's always a struggle at this stage where, they're trying to make decisions based on a situation that's going to be in 3 months' time. Unfortunately, none of us have crystal balls to actually read, and make guarantees. So, this made a bit of a challenge, but they were all pretty, I would say, behind us. But we needed to actually talk to the rest of our exhibitors as well. There were a lot of accusations in the marketplace about why we're going ahead, and that many exhibitors perhaps were only staying on board because they felt shackled by the finances. So we said, okay, let's give everybody a chance. Let's start from the beginning and give them the opportunity to get their money back. And that's why we made that offer to actually say, anyone who wants to withdraw now, anyone who's still committed to the show and wants to withdraw, we would give them a free pass. Basically, you can withdraw, no financial penalties. You get back into the rebooking process for ISE 2022, and you keep your priority points. Because we thought that would actually tell if there's commitment or not, and release some of those companies who felt they were not in a position. And, we have 1 or 2 exhibitors from Australia, for example, and we know they can't come. There's a travel ban until the end of the year for Australian citizens to go anywhere. So, we'd seen some of those situations and said, okay, let's try and make it easy and work with our customers. We're part of this industry. So that was how the process started. We met with our advisory committee and talked through what the offer was to get some reaction and asked them what they thought. And everyone felt this was a fair way to go ahead and actually treat the rest of the industry. Despite whatever their decisions were, they felt it was a way for us to move forward.
as you said, I mean, those in the AV Tweeps community online, certainly many have been expressing opinions in different directions. But now that you've made your announcement on Monday, what kind of feedback have you generally gotten from the AV community? I know you can't necessarily name names about particular exhibitors or anything like that, but what kind of
I'm sure I'd love to name some names, but I mean, Dan, we have mixed reactions, and obviously there are. I think there are people out there who have a right to give their opinions because they've invested money in the show. They have a commitment to be in there, and they want to know. They've made that investment, and I think anyone who's done that, deserves a right to actually give a voice and tell us what direction we should go in. We've had mixed reactions, even from those companies who've cancelled. You'll see some tweets online from companies who've cancelled who really said they find the whole process and the way we treat them is actually exceptional. They haven't had this sort of treatment from any other organizer. And they've really credited us with the way we've dealt with this and the process we've done, and want to remain customers with us. So, and we have many of those, and for those customers who have cancelled, I can tell you we have just as many emails that actually say, they have untenable situations where they just can't exhibit because they don't know where their travel situation is or if they're able to. And I mentioned, we have one or two from Australia where it really is. We know it's a fact. And these companies are disappointed not actually having an ISE.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of the health and safety protocols, which obviously everyone is very concerned about, even though we're doing much better with respect to COVID here in the States, we're having about 2 million vaccinations a day. So it's positive, the trajectory is good. What kind of health and safety protocols can you assure AV community members will be implemented in Barcelona to keep them safe if they're able to make the trip?
I mean, firstly, you talk about the trajectory of how things are looking. Spain actually has a situation which is similar to Germany. Yesterday's they just had over 6,000 cases, which is about, I think we were talking in the middle of January over 30,000 cases. So that's a tremendous improvement on where they're going. And if we look at last summer, June, July 2020, they were actually looking at between 200 and 400 cases a day. So an average of around 300 cases a day. So they'd really got on top of things in the warmer weather. We are hoping that they get back to that situation or better. The Spanish health minister said recently that, I can't remember where I read this, that he anticipated actually having majority, more than 70% of the population vaccinated by the end of the summer. I'm sure you'll be able to Google that somewhere and find it. So, things are looking better. Obviously, they're not as advanced as the UK, and the US is looking up as well in the way cases are going. We're seeing improvements. The rest of Europe is getting its act together now in getting the vaccines rolled out. So these are positive messages. This is positive news that we're getting about the whole situation. But despite that, we've said, okay, we still have to put safety precautions in place. So, that includes maintaining social distancing in the halls. That includes checking temperatures. That includes putting UV filters into the ventilation system to actually kill any germs coming in. I don't know if you're aware, but UVC light, that's that blue light you see in, sometimes you see them in coffee machines as well. Mm-hmm. And actually it kills most, it will kill germs from common flu, SARS-2, COVID-19, a host of germs and viruses. The trouble is, it's very dangerous. It can blind you, it can burn your skin, etc. Mm-hmm. So having direct contact to it is not very wise. So they built it inside of the ventilation system. So any air coming in from the outside is filtered through that UV. So you're getting clean air in. What they're doing on top of that then is actually increasing the volume of air that's coming into the building to push out the old air. So the exchange of air is going to be faster than normal. So these are, some of the first safety methods or mitigation points that are being taken. Exhibitors can actually rent their own UV filtering systems, air conditioning systems to put in their own booth additionally if they want to. We will actually filter, between any session in the room or any meeting rooms, we will actually run the systems through there in between sessions. So these are sort of things we're doing. We've also put into our budget now to actually do mandatory testing. We're still working on some of the logistics because there are a couple of things which are happening. The first is there is a new testing solution coming on the market, which is going through the process at the moment, which actually allows the results for rapid testing in 30 seconds. And it's like a breathalyzer. The thing is, it hasn't got approval yet, and we're hoping that it will have approval by the time we get to the show, because it's a real game changer in how we can process the people we're bringing in. But we have our backup plan, which is the normal antigen rapid testing, which takes 15 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll put testing outside of the venue as well, in the hotels, the airport, etc. So we don't have these huge crowds standing around waiting to get in and waiting for their test results. So it means that you could actually, when you arrive in your hotel in the evening, you can get tested there again if you don't have a valid test. You can get tested there and you have your results before you leave for the show. Or you test in the morning before breakfast, or even before you leave for the show. We'll incorporate it into an app. And what will happen is, whilst you're on your way to the show, those test results are being worked on, and they will be sent to your app, which will be a QR code that you can scan at the entrance to show that you've been tested negative for COVID. What we feel is also reasonable is that, if someone has just arrived and having, the Spanish government at the moment says that anybody comes in who's coming into the country has to have a valid negative corona test that's not more than 72 hours old. Mm-hmm. And we feel that we should accept that as well, because if the government's going to accept it, then we should accept it too. And that will also help those people, because if you've just been tested, you're not going to feel very in such a mood to be tested a second time. You can say, well, I've just done that. Right. So we feel that's acceptable. So if someone can actually show us a valid, authorized COVID test, we won't have to test them again. So we're looking at all the sort of things, firstly to make it safe, but also to make it customer friendly for our attendees and our exhibitors. We will also be offering testing on site. So for those people who haven't had the opportunity to be tested beforehand, we will be able to test them on site. And we'll make that available to our exhibitors, their personnel, all the staff who are working on site, just to try and keep a safe environment.
Well, fingers crossed for those 30-second rapid tests being approved. That would be a wonderful thing if that's able to be done by the time June rolls around.
Absolutely.
Obviously, although there's going to be a clearly very robust in-person presence for ISE's debut in Barcelona, I imagine it's going to be a hybrid event to the fullest extent. Can you talk a bit about the virtual program that's going to be paired with the?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, and I've got to say, as an exhibition organizer, I think most of us in this business have fought against virtual presence for some time. So this has really been forced on us. But we have certainly recognized the value of it. The people who register for ISE every year, we find probably about 15% of the people who register to attend actually don't turn up. And we survey them afterwards. We need to understand trends. If we're not looking out to see what the problems might be, they could be on top of us before we realize it. So not only do we ask people what they were satisfied with, those people who came, we ask them what they're not satisfied with. And then we ask the people who didn't come, well, why didn't you come? We need to understand that, just in case it's something that we're doing wrong or not doing right. But what we found is majority of those people actually don't turn up because something more important turned up in between the time they chose to actually attend and the time it came to actually committing to make that attendance. So we change a lot of our marketing to actually keep the conversation going with them and keep them really try and keep ISE at the top of their calendar. But still, we still get this amount of people who are still not coming. And what we've realized now, and again, it's been forced on us, but we realized that actually we now have, by doing a virtual part to ISE, we can reach those people as well in the future. So you will see a virtual part of ISE going on in the future, where we want to give those people who are not able to attend the experience that they may miss from not being there. Now, nothing can actually substitute being at an in-person show. But at least, if you can't make it, we've got an opportunity to show you some of the things you might miss, some of the things that are important to you.
That sounds great. And certainly having missed these industry events, in-person events for a year now, I think all of us are dying to get back to in-person, face-to-face events. And I hope a large portion of people do make their way to ISE in Barcelona. And I give you credit for doing the very best you can to put on a safe and effective in-person event this coming June. Are there any closing thoughts you might want to share with our audience about the decision-making, ISE in general, anything else?
I mean, certainly, Dan, one of the things we've looked at here is, we're part of this industry, and, we want to serve this industry. We're not trying to force anything onto our exhibitors or our attendees. This is something where we want to actually give value. And, if our customers don't feel there's value or they have concerns, then, we want to actually answer those and give them the opportunity to revisit their decisions on how they, if they want to or don't want to come. So, we want to continue to be part of that. The response we're getting from both those companies who are staying and even those ones who are going is they feel very committed to ISE. Those who can't make it have said they're committing to ISE 2022. And we're doing our best to try and deliver this show. We don't know at this stage. I can't tell you what size the show is or what number of attendees we're going to have, because we just don't know that at the moment. So it's a lot of guesswork. We're trying to win the lotto. We're putting money on something which we don't know who's going to win the game yet. We hope we've done enough to hedge our bets and check what the calendar is, how things look, to make that decision. And we believe we're in the right direction because the numbers show that it's improving. But at the end of the day, we're left to what decision our customers make.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for lending some insight into the decision-making process. I understand it was not made capriciously, it was made thoughtfully. And thank you for giving us some transparency and insight into the deliberations. And best of luck for a very successful Barcelona show this June. This has been Dan Ferrisi, editor of Sound and Communications Magazine. Happy to have been joined by Mike Blackman, Integrated Systems Events Managing Director. Thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.